I'm going to kick things off on time. If people come in a little bit later, that's fine. This is a really casual kind of Q&A session for people to find out more about what we're doing, ask me questions as the chief consultant, CEO, owner here, ask Meghan questions as our top performing SDR, kind of about what the process was like for her. And then I'll share the copy of this video afterwards to everyone who is registered. I know we had a lot of people that couldn't make it. And then I'll also share some kind of resources. I've got a lot of recorded content from previous SDR trainings that I've run to give you a feel for kind of like how I run training around here. I'm going to let Meghan introduce herself, and then I'll get into sharing kind of the 500-foot overview about the program and what we have going on. And then I'll open it up for you guys to ask questions. Ask a lot of them, even questions that you're not sure if you want to know the answer for, because people are going to be watching the video afterwards too. And with that, I'll hand it over to Meghan to introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Megan. Nice to meet you guys. You don't have to mute yourselves. You can unmute. I am a mom of three littles, 8, 7, and 5. I basically have only been a server. I went to school for a little bit in college for some engineering, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. She posted this job about doing some cold calling for her company to call for marketing. Of course, initially, I've never done cold calling in my entire life. I used to do door knocking, and that sucked. Face to face, I was met with a gun one time, and they were like, "We don't want solar panels." And I was like, "Got it. I hear you loud and clear, man." So I quit doing that. The training with her, because it was only just me training with her, and I've known Megan for a while. We had our own little schedule based around our days. But I did a month, and it was my own research, my own stuff. Every single thing that she gave me, I read. Every single link that she gave me, I favorited in my computer underneath MKC, and I dove into it. And that's just my personality, but I highly suggest that if you do something like that with this, that you just go in all in with it. But I started cold calling for the very first time ever. The first week of cold calling, I set 3 appointments, and I didn't even know that was even possible. And she gave me a goal of 2 a month. After that, I set 2 more meetings. I believe it was 2 or 1 more meetings after that. And then now I've had to slow down because we're taking on clients to the point where we need people like myself, where when I started calling for her, the people that buy her marketing, they want someone like me to call for their company to sell their product to other people. So I can only do so much. Now I'm taking on 2 or 3 clients along with calling for Megan as well.
2 signed.
2 signed clients, and I've only been calling for 3 weeks. So it's wild. This is a really, really cool opportunity. That's really all I can say. And it's so funny because every time I talk about it, I keep telling my friends, I'm like, I swear it's not an MLM, because the way that I'm like, it's such a great opportunity. You should definitely check us out. It's a real job, I'm sorry.
I'm actually just her upline, guys. Don't believe her. No, so to give you kind of clarity on the overall opportunity, right? We're a marketing agency, but a huge piece of what we do is lead generation for other companies. And initially, I had outsourced that to one of my partners who has his own team of SDRs. And they were doing like 4 to 6 month contracts and not setting a single meeting. And I was so frustrated because I have trained SDR teams before, and I know my teams outperform that every single time. And I was paying him like $600 a month for 2 hours a day, roughly, of cold calling from Philippine SDRs, which I anticipate may have been part of the problem. We all know that when someone calls us and we hear a heavy accent, we're like, what is this? I'm frustrated, right? And I realized that if I realigned with what I consider to be my purpose, which is elevating people, that I actually had a much better chance of having a high-performing team, taking people like Meghan, and hopefully some of you guys on this call and some of you watching it after the fact, who are just kind of stuck and haven't been handed the opportunities that they feel like they needed to get started. I have professionally trained SDR teams for, larger tech orgs where they're paying like $10,000 to $15,000 per SDR to be trained by me. And those SDRs are making, $60,000, $70,000 a year base plus commission. And they needed my training, even though they already had experience. So I know it's possible for people to learn and do this really, really well with my assistance. I've seen the proof in the pudding a lot of times. But I always struggled with the fact that because we're a small business, I can't give people the same ramp up time that you would get if you went to go work at like a B2B SaaS company, right? Where they hire an SDR and they say, you have 6 months to set a meeting and you're going to get paid your salary either way because they already have the profit sitting there. I don't have that ability. But what I can give you is a month of training for free that you'd pay a lot of money to do through a million different resources, and the potential of making $15 an hour plus commission at the end of that month, depending on demand. So the role that I have open is I have like 2 potential slots for part-time. That means like 2 hours a day, 10 hours a week of cold calling for MKC for a month, right? And that's working for me. People who perform like Meghan, I can pretty much guarantee you if you're doing well, you'll get more work, because when you cold call and the clients talk to you and you're the one that brings them in for wanting a lead gen opportunity with us, they want you. That's
And
what's happened with Meghan.
the clients that you're talking to are the presidents, the CEOs, the COOs. So you're talking to the ones who make a lot of the decisions and have a lot of pull. So if you win them over, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be like, well, I want the one who called me to got me in this meeting. So that's how
we're at the point now where I have more people wanting Meghan than I have Meghan. I'm like, I can't give her to you. She's already at capacity. And that's sort of why we opened up the program to bring more people in, because we need more people that can cold call into these accounts as well. I think I'll have 4-ish additional accounts for people to cold call into. And I'm just going to align the people who've done the training, their skill set, their personality with the companies that we have demand for. So we primarily work with like managed service providers, which if you're not familiar with that term, that's a lot of like IT services company. The same way that we do like outsourced marketing, outsourced lead gen, they do outsourced IT services, whether that's cybersecurity or phone systems or working on your email. Some of them do everything. Some of them do one thing really well. It depends. We work with a lot of telcos. So like telecom businesses that sell into other businesses. You wouldn't think that's a huge industry, but it is astronomically large. And then a lot of like internet and network companies that are behind the scenes, not necessarily like a Comcast that would be selling you internet, but all the companies that sit behind Comcast that make the global web of internet work. And then sometimes SaaS companies. I will say with SaaS companies, I have to place SDRs that have proven experience. One of them wants Meghan wicked bad and doesn't believe that she's only been doing this for 3 weeks. So we may have to pull off some magic with rearranging clients so that she can work their account because they are dead set on her. But usually with SaaS companies, you have to have a little bit of experience working enterprise sales because it's a different play than just cold calling into MSPs. Go ahead, Meghan. I know you wanted to say something.
No, I just want to know how many of you guys know what any of these terms are that she's saying, like SaaS. Okay, cool. We got 1,
Half.
2. You do?
Oh, half. Yeah.
Half. So
half my terminology makes sense.
Well, I was just going to say, because if you don't freak out, because I had no fucking clue. So a lot of, again, my research that I had done too was a lot of figuring out tech, because I know tech, but a lot of it was based around like how to talk to tech companies that are trying to sell to other tech companies, or even trying to figure out don't freak out. That was all I'm going to say. Don't freak out.
Yeah. And you get training on all that stuff too. So you get training on the types of companies we're targeting, what they do, why it matters. A lot of what we do. So for like my background and how we get leads is I pretty much consult. So companies hire me to be like their fractional CRO, which that's chief revenue officer, or come in and be their temporary VP of sales and build out sales process for them and all these things. And while I'm doing that, I uncover all these pain points. Like, we have no idea how to train SDRs. We don't have any leads. We don't have any content. Our website sucks. We don't know how to do social media. All these things come up, especially in small tech companies, because what they're really, really good at is technology. How brains work. Most people who are really, really good at tech, at operations, at building technology, their mind is not an extroverted, want to talk to people, want to close sales, want to understand marketing and human psychology brain. Some of them can do both. But then how do they do all that with their time, right? How do you do all the marketing, all the sales, and make sure the product works or the service, train up techs? No one can do it all. And so a lot of our value is just saying, like, you don't have the time in the day to do everything. Let us do some of it for you. And so that's like MKC. That's how we're selling. Most of our clients that the SDRs end up servicing is most of those clients end up also having a similar sale, but instead of outsourcing, say, marketing, maybe they're outsourcing like IT services or navigating complex contracts for their communication systems. There's a lot of different companies we work with, but when you really drill down and you start thinking about like what we call a unique value proposition, what makes you better than your competitors, it comes down to all the same stuff, right? Like people, values, time, money. There's only so many levers to pull. And once you get that basic sales training and you understand this concept of like, what am I trying to help them save money? Am I trying to make their lives easier? What am I trying to do? You just learn how to talk to people. And what has made Meghan so incredibly successful in this role, I think, comes down to two or three characteristics of her. One is that she's very high fact finding. If you give Meghan information about anything, she will go find more information about that thing and research it until she feels like she understands it. And that is hugely important. Two is that she's really, really willing to make herself uncomfortable. Like the first week of cold calling, I could see it in her. It was like, she's like, this is so uncomfortable. I feel like I'm going to die. But then she got those initial first wins underneath her and was like, holy shit, I can do this. I can do this and I can make more money than I make working, however many hours of serving adds up to that. And like in a 5-minute phone call, because I booked a meeting, I made $50. And that's stackable. And I'll show you our commission structure in a minute, because it'll show you that like we have spiffs, which is what you get for like booking the meeting. But everybody, if you book a client and they close, you get residuals on that client for life. Even if you're not working for me anymore, you do have to invoice me for it, but I'll pay you forever. As long as the client's a client of mine, as long as they're paying me, I'll pay you. And those things over time can really stack up to be worth good money. And working here with me, when you start, you are going to sign a 1-year non-compete. That means you won't go work for one of our clients without us agreeing to it.
Being
right?
subcontracted.
Yeah, because you're subcontracted. So you can't just go work for them and cut me out for the first year. But after the first year, you can take all the training I've given you, all the client networking you've done, because the big thing is you're going to build a big book of people you've talked to working here, and take that to market and go see if you can make more money someplace else. I won't be offended. One of the things I pride myself on the most about my business is that I have never, ever, ever left an employee worse off than when I found them. Everyone who's ever worked for me has left for me and gone and made more money someplace else, or they've grown with me. But because we're a small business, I can't say we're going to grow as rapidly as you do professionally. You might outgrow us, but the potential to find something else, and on top of doing like fractional SDRs and outbound engines, which is what we build for you guys that you work, I also place SDRs. So I recruit for those bigger SaaS companies and place SDRs for them. So if you're working for me and I'm seeing you're setting like 12, 15, 20 meetings a month across 4 clients, we're going to sit down and have a one-on-one and I'll be like, listen, I love you. You're doing a great job for me, but you could make a lot more money someplace else. So let's make a plan. I need you to work the rest of your contract with XYZ client, but then I'd really like to go place you at one of, these 3 or 4 companies that I think would pay you better and give you all the bells and whistles benefits that I don't provide. There's no benefits. It's technically freelance contractor work. When you're working dialing for me, it's $15 an hour plus commission. When you bring on a client, if they're outbound engine, you make $600 a month for doing 10 hours a week. It's the same money really, but you get it as $600 a month. And you can stack those, do 3 or 4 clients if you want to. And then you make commission additionally. Usually I make them pay you $100 per meeting after your first 4 meetings. Per your contract, which is usually 6 months. But you can also negotiate better commission. Often when I do like fractional SDR, which that's like Meghan Wage Up is looking at fractional SDR as opposed to an outbound engine. And so we're going to build a custom commission plan for them as part of that engagement because they need it. Like they're an enterprise sales org, which means that they're not setting like 5-10 meetings in a month. They want like 2 really good meetings with big companies. And when that's the case, like you need to have a bigger commission plan. So I'm going to jump into the commission plan and then I'll open it up for questions.
How many of you guys cold called before?
Never.
Never? Yeah,
There's
never.
more than one way to skin a cat too. So like cold calling is not the only way if you end up in a fractional SDR role.
Very true.
But our outbound engine is heavily reliant on cold calling. And I will say that it is the most effective channel right now. So there's a whole bunch of different types of meetings. Almost everyone that starts cold calling for me starts with the MSP lead generation, which has now been rebranded as our outbound engine package, which is $50 for the meeting. And if it closes, you get 2%. There's also the potential here to grow into a closer. So if you work for me for a couple months and you're like, Meghan, I think I can close. I don't need to bring you in. I've seen you do it enough times. I think I can go close the deal. Your spiff goes up. So you close the deal, you make $200 on closing the deal. And these are stackable. So let's say you set the meeting and the meeting's qualified, you make $50. You close the deal, you make an extra 200. So that's $250 you made kind of upfront. And then you're actually going to make 7% of what they pay me every single month, as long as they're a client. They pay me, I pay you. 7% of what they bill. So like for MSP lead gen, they bill anywhere from like $1,500 to $1,950 a month. What's 7% of that? Hold on. I can do math with a calculator. So it's like $136 a month that you're making passively at that point. Now, let's say they're an MSP outbound engine. You close them. They want to do business with you because you're the one that called them and they felt connected to you enough to take the meeting. Then you're going to be making $636 a month because you're making the $600 a month based on their account, cold calling like roughly 2 hours a day. And then you still make your $250 spiff and it's more money. So it's very stackable. As you get more comfortable here, you kind of start scaling into some of these other meeting types, which are, some are more profitable than others. Like our bigger packages with annual commitments and stuff, if you can get someone interested in that. It is a more complex sale because you have to better understand what we do. And I think the outbound engine is the easiest thing to understand, especially if you are coming at this with like a sales lens, if you don't have marketing experience. But as you build the marketing experience from working here, you can make more money selling more complex deals with annual commitments. All of that makes sense? Cool. I will drop this. This spreadsheet also has like a whole bunch of targets on it. Some of these are old, some are new, whatever. It has our list of top things and our ICP. Please don't share it with anyone without telling me, but it's not like a super private doc. And with that, I'll open it up for questions. What do you want to know?
All right.
How was the transition from waiting tables to doing this?
Not too hard. Because waiting tables face to face, I'm goofier than anybody around. I can make anyone feel comfortable when you walk into like the restaurant I work at. I can go anywhere and talk to anybody. The only thing that I felt was really weird was no one could see my face. And I'm very facially animated. Like I'll be like, oh, all right. And then but over the phone, you can't really, So my the hardest part for me was the phone part without seeing the face. But what I did to get over that hump was during my training, I, on my own, would just call local businesses because I live in Mount Dora. So I would just call local businesses over here and I would just ask them about their business. I would call the owners and I would say, hey, so I was just wondering, curious, like, how did you get started with this company? What brought you to the idea of selling umbrellas with a rent market of $8,000 a month? How do you even survive? And just me calling people and asking people about their business with no intention of selling got me more comfortable with my tone and my delivery over the phone. And then from there, I was like, well, because it's hard for you to be like, right, well, all I have to do is just call them to ask them because I'm caring. It's easy to think, but then when you know that like you have the motive of calling someone to get to book a meeting, that tone will come out over time and throughout the call. So you're going to have to break that. So the best way I found for myself was just call people, be like, hey, how'd you start your business? What brought you to this, area, and kind of roll that. And then from there, it kind of just made sense.
I will say I started many years ago as a bartender, and I felt that experience is extremely relevant to sales. When you work as a server, you work on commission, you just don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
Because you're getting tipped a percentage of what they spend on their bill, right? And so like good servers that make good money are doing that really well. They're making recommendations on the menu that they know add up to a certain amount of money while keeping in mind the person in front of them, like what they actually want. Because if you make a recommendation that's trash, you're not going to make a good tip if they don't like their food. So it's this balancing act, right? Of I have to give you what you want that benefits me. And sales is exactly like that. Like I have to solve your problems, but I want to do that in a way that I get to make some money. And it's not a huge difference. And if you can deal with retail, people screaming at you for things that aren't your fault, right? If you can deal with restaurant work, same thing, where like people will scream in your face things that are not your fault. If you have the tenacity and the mental fortitude to live with that every day and do it for like crappy money with not much potential of like, there's not a huge ladder to climb, you can do that in sales where you know that if you prove yourself, you can make a lot more money 100%.
Just learn how to talk on the phone without seeing people face to face.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the way Meghan did it is a great way to do it. Practicing with friends is also really good because the best tonality, like, and Meghan says all the time, she just calls like she's going to talk to a friend. And that's the best tonality. Like, hey, how you doing? What's up? Like that tone, that's the same tone you would use talking to friends, is the one that gets people to listen. And it's really undervalued in the overall sales community. People talk so much about what to say when really it's delivery and how you say it more than it is like you can memorize a script and you're not going to be good at sales. You have to be able to just like have a conversation.
Be yourself. Just be yourself.
Yeah, authenticity too. And like, I think
go ahead.
You're the one that sent me a video, right, Steven?
Yes.
Yeah. So video is hugely popular and compelling in sales, and it works really well. And it's especially with like fractional SDR work, you have a lot of flexibility in how you want to go after it. You know, if you want to do LinkedIn, you want to do email, you want to do video, you want to show up at people's houses, like you can be a stalker, I don't care. Just close, like get the meeting. And, you know, it's about leaning into your authenticity and what works for you. And like Meghan has killed it on the phone. So I'm not like, go hit LinkedIn, you know?
I'll even call like the first thing that I say on the phone, I'll just be like, hey, I'm really sorry. This is a cold call. You can hang up on me and tell me to kick rocks if you want. And they're like, well, that was weird. And they're like, well, what are you trying to sell me? And I'm like, absolutely nothing. And they're like, then why'd you call? And then we kind of just joke about stuff, you know? And a lot of things, like one of the clients that we're working on trying to get, we connected on the fact that my son has autism. His son has autism, you know? So like we connected on that level. You just be yourself. That
worked out really well because we got on a meeting and I was like, I'm also autistic, so this will be fun.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically it. Just be yourself. Don't overthink it.
What other questions people have?
So you said on the leads, that we'd be calling for 2 hours a day. Or is that like a list of leads, or would we do our own prospecting?
Combination of both. So especially when you first start, I try to give you a good warm list to call. So like usually with Meghan, I'll go through, we do a decent amount of like automated email to sort of get an idea of intent. So I try to go through the list of people we've been emailing and look at people who've opened a lot of emails and assign those to Meghan to call. And in the beginning, that's how we work things. I don't expect you to know how to do the research right away. The longer you've been with me and the more you show the capacity to do that, then the more I kind of hand it over to you. And I'm like, yeah, add your research hours, you know, to your hours of working, because you're capable of finding leads and qualifying them on your own. And then when you start transitioning into that, we actually have a score sheet, like an ICP scoring thing where you can go score whether or not a lead is good or not. And Apollo just launched super cool. Have you seen this yet, Meghan, in beta, that they do the lead scoring for you?
Yep.
So that's, now we can just put our ICP into Apollo and it tells me good, very good, fair. It's in beta, but like that's super exciting for us to make that like way easier to slim down our list and be like, this guy's perfect.
Well, Apollo's awesome. Yeah, I've used that in my previous position. So yeah, it's
awesome.
Definitely.
It says fair or good sometimes, and I'll call and they're like, stop emailing me, stop calling me. And I'm like, you just have a good day, sir. I didn't mean to offend. I'm sorry.
I'm always like, you know, you could reply to my email and it would stop the emails.
Unsubscribe. Easy.
Yeah, there's literally a button on the bottom that says unsubscribe. Yeah.
Ours say reply to unsubscribe, but literally like if you reply, it stops the sequence in its tracks and then we'll go manually unsubscribe them. But as soon as they reply, it stops sending them stuff. And then we won't call you anymore either. We're really respectful about it. Like where if someone tells us not to call them anymore, we're like, okay, I'll never call you again, because there's our TAM, total addressable market, is huge. Do you know how many small tech companies there are on the planet? So many. So if someone's like, fuck you, we're just like, fuck you too. Have a great day. Bye. Like, I don't care. Awesome. People that want to do business with us, that we're not worried about the ones that don't. And because I sort of own things from sales through fulfillment to the business end of things, all headaches lead to Meghan. Like if someone's a headache, they're my headache. So when you encounter someone who gives like off red flag energy, where they're like, they're not pleasant, we do not fucking want to work with them. So don't turn yourself inside out trying to set a meeting with someone who doesn't want to buy from us, because we don't want to sell to them, because then we have to fulfill it. And then we have to have a relationship with them for at least the next 6 months. And I don't want to spend my next 6 months dealing with someone who felt like we were pulling their teeth trying to make them our client. Like that's not the relationship we want to have. We want to genuinely uncover up front their pain points, why sales isn't working for them, solve that for them with some plan, which I would say in the last 3 years, not so much lately, but in the last 3 years, 90% of our clients have ended up in something custom. We just open the door with some type of offer, but ultimately, like, I listen to all the pain that they're having, and then I'm like, oh, okay, well, it sounds like you need dun dun dun, let's turn that into a package and make it make sense for you, rather than trying to fit them into something we already have.
Awesome.
What else? Who else has questions?
So basically, if I'm understanding correct, everyone who is interested in the position is going to do a training with you for 1 month, and then you're going to pick the 2 best or however many you choose to do that position, correct?
Yep. So I'm trying to keep the class between 5 and 15 people.
Okay.
So if I had more people than that, I would qualify some out, but I think that's about what we have for, I had like 25 people actually register, and then 11 RSVP, and then some messaged me and said they wouldn't be available to come. So I think realistically, we're going to end up with a good 5 to 15 size class.
Cool.
And you get that month of training. We're going to base the schedule on the availability of the people that are interested, because I want to make sure that those trainings are available in a time slot that like the majority of people can come. So not everybody's learning off of videos after the fact. And you get all that for free. If you end up not wanting to work with me, or I don't select you for a role, I will make a recommendation for you on LinkedIn and introduce you to my network to try to help you get your next job.
For 17,000 connected network. So you'll be
17,000 business decision makers.
Okay.
And then I will need at least 2, potentially more, because Meghan is kicking ass and taking names, and we're being really upfront now that our next kind of kickoff date is going to be October 1st for having people ready to work accounts. So the goal is to sort of build demand, get some people closed, and be able to hire more people. And as we go through that month of training, I'll do at least one one-on-one with everybody to get a feel for, you know, what your goals are, and so how I can help you support you in accomplishing those goals, and what your availability is. Because really, this is an ideal role for someone who doesn't need something full-time right now, where like you want something part-time to alleviate other, like if you're working a serving job, restaurants are evenings, you can do this in the morning before you go to your serving job. If you're a mom, it works during kids' nap times. You know, you just have to be able to find 2 hours a day in business hours. So at least 2, potentially more. And also the kinds of accounts you'd be comfortable working too, because most of our training is going to focus around MKC and MSPs, because those are our biggest clients, are the MSPs. But if you were like, you know, I really love SaaS and I think I could work in that space, we could work on finding a client for you that's that person.
Got you. And so I guess I'm just curious what the training looks like. Is it, you know, all the 5 through 15 people jumping on a Zoom call with you? Like how many times a week? How long is that call going to be? I know you talked about kind of lining it up with everyone's schedule, but
the majority of training will be Zooms like this, 5 to 15 people, and we'll go kind of like issue by issue. Right.
Gotcha.
So we'll talk about research. We'll talk about targeting. We'll talk about messaging. We'll talk about cold email, cold calling, video messaging, LinkedIn in individual classes. And there'll be kind of a Q&A session at the end of each. I will shoot you guys in my follow-up email after this links to some of my old sessions so you can see roughly kind of how I run things. Sometimes I come in and I have a whole agenda and it's like beautifully organized because I've taught that session before. And sometimes I come in and it's just the most recent stuff, you know, where I'm like, let's talk about cold calling. It's changed a lot this year. This is what's happening. But everyone will get at least one-on-one session where we'll sit down. And I don't know if I said, but it's probably 3 days a week, about an hour a day.
Gotcha.
Is my goal. But we'll see with everybody's schedules what lines up, and with my schedule what lines up, because it's wild trying to manage my schedule.
Understandable.
What else, guys? I know you have questions.
I have a question. I have really bad cell service at my house. Is there a way to do calling over the computer or?
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll set you up with either or both HubSpot and Apollo, both of which you can call in. It'll probably be Apollo because I don't think we have space for all the HubSpot licenses we would need. And that's, for those who don't know, HubSpot is very expensive. And Apollo is very affordable because we have an agency partnership with them. I pay like less than $200 a year for each license that I add, which is they charge like $80 a month for what we get for like $200 a year. But you'll get at least Apollo, and in Apollo you can set up a phone number and dial over the internet, and that phone number can receive calls as well. I think anybody who ends up kind of working for me on like a more permanent basis, we'd probably spin up in HubSpot because that's our main CRM. And with that, you can call over the internet, but HubSpot also has a phone app, so you can call through HubSpot from your phone. It's great. And both of them will record your calls for easy coaching. So like if you're having a bad week and you want to know, like, Meghan, why am I sucking? I can go listen to your calls and be like, well, it's your opener.
Sucking.
Or
I'm just kidding. Okay.
it's your tone. It might be that, Meghan, too. So part of the kind of work we're doing here is elevating Meghan into like a leadership's team lead role, because she's kicking ass and she deserves that opportunity.
I used to be a store manager for 3 PacSuns. I don't know if you guys remember what PacSun was before TikTok blew it up, but
I remember PacSun.
it was pretty cool clothing. So I'm really rad to work with. I'm just kidding. I'm a stickler. You guys are fucked.
Can confirm Meghan's awesome to work with. Both Meghans are really cool.
There's actually 5 other Megans too on the team. You'll see them on the next appointment that we have.
There aren't, but there are a whole bunch of other M names. Our entire like core team at MKC is girls with the name M who are low key crazy. High key, super high key crazy.
So is there opportunity within the month of training to do calling and land meetings and make deals?
So potentially, if in that month of training you want to give cold calling a try, you can do it. I'll pay you for the meeting, but I'm not paying you for the hours until you've completed training and been offered like a seat. But if you want to do it and you're like, you know what, I feel confident enough that I want to try, my commission is actually 100%. I will commission anybody. So like, let's say you train with me for a month and for whatever reason, we decide it's not the right time for you to take on 10 hours a week of working for me, right? You could still, in whatever else you're doing in your life, be like, oh, hey, I heard you say that like you're really struggling with sales. My friend does that. Do you want me to set up a meeting? And if it turned out that they were a good fit, I would give you the commission on that anyways. So I'll commission anybody at any time. I don't care.
You're an angel.
Do you know how much money the average like cost to acquire a client is? Anybody have any idea what that is?
Like 100 something.
What?
100 something?
No. God, I wish. The average cost to acquire a client is between $7,500 and $50,000, depending on the industry that you're in. We're probably around that $7,500 mark in overall average cost to acquire a client. So in the grand scheme of things, giving commission to anybody is like nothing compared to the amount of like paid ads everybody's doing, paying salespeople that are salaried,
Paying graphic designers,
yeah,
WordPress.
websites, building your website, having a social media presence. So like if you're paying a social media manager, that's part of your overall cost to acquire a customer. Like all that stuff, it stacks up because these are things that you kind of have, but they don't necessarily give you immediate revenue, right? Like average cost to have a blog written is like $750.
That's nuts.
You know, like, but everybody's got to have a blog.
At the last company that I worked for, they actually ended up hiring a guy that wrote for politicians, and so it was super expensive. And then whenever he finished, like they still were having trouble finding the market fit. So it was like a lot of, and they ended up having to go in and reword some of the stuff that he said after paying him all that money.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's expensive. Customer acquisition's expensive, and you never really know if something's going to work until you try. You can make an informed decision, right, based on what's worked before, but you never truly know, like, is this go-to-market strategy going to land where we want to be? But we've found that just straight up outbound gets the most, and we do the marketing stuff for clients, and there's a lot of potential too as you grow. If you're working here as doing SDR work, if you see something else that you kind of want to try your hand at and you're like, hey, could I do some social media content or whatever? We always welcome cross collaboration and giving something else a try. Like, particularly when you touch the sales side, you have so much insight into what we're doing for clients. So it's easy, like if you're on a qualifying call with me because you set the meeting and you're listening to what's happening, then after the meeting, you'd be like, hey, Megan, I heard that they want like 6 blogs. Could I do one of those? Because I think I might be really good at it. Graphic design, video editing, all that stuff are things that we do that you can potentially give a shot. And what I do is like, just initially, I just pay you whatever I'm paying you hourly to do that. And if it works out, then we, actually scope it as a real job. Anybody else got any other questions? All right. So with that, do you want to go round robin and everybody introduce themselves? Tell me, what interested you about this opportunity, and this year, like in the next year, what it is you want to be doing with your life, and then share your, like, the 3 or 4 best times for you to meet. It can be a range, like Thursdays from 2 to 6 or whatever. So again, that's introduce yourself, what you've been doing, what you're doing right now. It doesn't have to be a long thing. In the next year, where you want to be, and your availability to meet moving forward.
I'll go
We'll
first.
start top left, or yeah, Austin's going. So bottom right, and then we'll come up.
Cool. So my name is Austin Como. From Louisiana, and I've been in sales for a few years. I did some solar door to door out in Texas. I did some security alarm systems door to door, and I've currently been doing a SDR role with a lead generation company in the real estate industry. So I've been doing that for about 8 to 10 months, and I've kind of gotten that down packed, and I have a little bit of extra time in my day. So looking for extra income and, extra opportunity, extra experience, and just looking to add on to the income. That's about it.
Get that side hustle going.
Yeah.
Availability.
Pretty flexible in the afternoons, honestly.
Okay. Flexible afternoons. Are you CST?
Yes, I am. Correct.
Tyler.
So I'm from Kentucky. I've recently spent the last couple years in sales. I have a lot of customer service experience, which I also feel translates to sales. The job that I had before the last one was selling an all-inclusive SaaS product. It was a data analytics project, content management. We sold to executives and businesses. And then my last job was selling ADA compliance software for to governments and schools, so stuff to keep their website compliant. The reason that I'm interested in this job is I'm going back to school to get my master's and degree in marketing, and I'm looking for something to kind of supplement me while I'm doing that. I like that the hours weren't a whole lot right now because we are also in the middle of farming. I do some farming, so I'm working on that too. So I just feel like this is a way for me to expand my knowledge in the sales industry and maybe contribute to the team, see where it goes.
Awesome. Availability.
I'm really open. I can fit 2 hours in pretty much any time of the day. So 2 or 3 hours a day I could do it whenever, work the other stuff around it.
Awesome. Steph.
My name is Stephanie, and I'm a photographer. I went to school for graphic design, computer software, and that was just a little too in the box for me. So I like the creative side of things. I am a mom to a 3-year-old autistic toddler. Lots of fun. So right now, Monday through Thursday, probably like 1 to 3 is good times for me. When he goes back to preschool, the mornings will be the best for me, and that's next month. And as far as motivation, yeah, I got debt and a house I want. So, and a kid.
And limited hours to work. So,
Yeah.
Candace.
Sorry about that. I'm Candace. I have been in sales and marketing and PR since 2005. I kind of waft back and forth between marketing and sales because it's like that. Just
Hold on, lost you for a second, Candace. Give it a
sales and
second to
B2B sales.
resync.
I speak the language. A year from now, I would like to.
I heard maybe 3 words and then you cut out again, unfortunately. But why don't you type it in the text box and then I can make my notes. But I know you anyways. So I know Candace outside of this. The biggest piece being availability. And Steven.
I have about 15 years of restaurant experience, and I want to do something else besides that. Fine dining, casual,
Is it
just
better
about
now?
everything. My kid's 10 months old, so his birthday's around the corner, and I need to make more money. Availability wise, I have most Tuesdays and Wednesdays off. For all the other days, I typically don't leave for work until 4. So anything before 4 p.m., we should be good.
Okay. 4. So it sounds like pretty consistently here, we've got a good, like, afternoons. You said anything before 4. And are you EST, Steven?
Yes, Florida.
You definitely don't want to be working in restaurants in Florida. It's hot.
Oh, it's brutal. I did pool cleaning briefly last season, off season. It was bad.
I wouldn't want to do that either. Nothing more I have to go outside or into a kitchen here in Florida. Thank you. I'll pass. Candace, did you want to try again now that you've disconnected and reconnected?
Okay, can you hear me?
I can.
Just kidding.
Anything before, I think before 3 is best. I can, like 4:30 would be a hard stop Eastern time, but before 3 is best. Yeah. A year from now, I want to be focusing on corporate wellness. I might have to hire MKC to help me get into all those places that need corporate wellness.
There's a lot of them for sure. And it's a growing, it was really, really growing. And then everybody's slashed budget right now. And so that growth has slowed down. Everybody's kind of cut down to what they consider to be absolutely core. That's what they want to do, which is why a year ago we had so much marketing work we were doing, like tons of content marketing. And then this year we've mostly been doing sales support and lead gen and like actual sales work, because everybody's like, we don't have any marketing budget, but we still need leads. So, and so we've kind of came up and got creative about making lead gen affordable, because the companies we work for can't drop 10 grand a month on lead gen and have no promise of what they're going to get. So we were like, we can promise you some things and we can do it for, less than 2 grand a month if you can make a 6-month commitment. And that is pretty unique in our space to be able to do it and do it confidently. Cool. So anybody else have any other questions before we roll out? I will extend those same kind of questions to the people that couldn't be here, and we'll get started scheduling. Just make sure I have your best email. If it wasn't the one you registered for this event with, just shoot me what your best one is so we can continue to follow up as we get things scheduled. But anybody else have any other questions? All right. Raise your hand if after this Q&A you feel like you're still interested. All right, cool.
Candace is frozen, but I think she's interested.
All right, guys. So I will follow up with you. And if you have more questions, feel free to shoot them over via email. My goal is to get this kicked off next week, because we really want to have at least 2 people we feel confident that we can get rolling by October 1st, because that is when we have told our clients we will have SDRs ready to work for them. And they all seem really excited.
I'm also going to put my email in the chat. So if you guys have any other questions for me, you can write me as well. And then I have 3 kids. I don't know if I said that or not, but my time is like pretty sparse when they're here every other week. So, but yeah, email me if you have any questions or want to go over like anything that she went over that you're not sure about. I can answer them for you too.
All right,
Great.
guys, it's great to meet you all. And I look forward to continuing to chat.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
You have a good day.
You too.